You're listening to Life of the Record, classic albums told by the people who made them. My name is Dan Nordheim. Low formed in Duluth, Minnesota in 1993 by Alan Sparhawk, Mimi Parker, and John Nichols. They initially signed with Vernon Yard and released their debut album, I Could Live in Hope, in 1994. John Nichols left the band and Zach Sally joined as they released Long Division and The Curtain Hits the Cast prior to leaving Vernon Yard. After signing with Cranky, they released Songs for a Dead Pilot, Secret Name, and Christmas before reconnecting with Steve Albini to record the songs that became 2001's Things We Lost in the Fire. In this episode, for the 20th anniversary, Mimi Parker and Alan Sparhawk look back on how Things We Lost in the Fire came together. This is the making of Things We Lost in the Fire.
My name is Mimi Parker, and I'm in Low, and I'm here today to reminisce about our record from, I think it was 2001, called Things We Lost in the Fire.
Me too. I'm Alan Sparhawk, and I'm also in Low.
I think at every point of any record we've ever done, there's confusion.
Yeah.
Whereas we're like, what are we doing? Is this any good? Is this just crap? Is this,
oh no, are these songs any good? Or, are we making a big mistake by chasing this rule or this maxim or something? I mean, these were some really expansive songs. I mean, when I look back, I guess when I remember writing them, I mean, I remember, this is just, I don't know if naive is the right word, but I feel like the possibilities in my mind were expanding just faster than I could keep up with it. So there's some really pure songs on there here that came from sort of that perfect balance of being naive, but also just about fully grasping what's possible.
Soon as I Could Live in Hope was out, we were like, okay, the only way anybody's going to hear this or hear about it is if we tour. So, and that's honestly...
That's how it was back then.
That's how it was, and that's the only way you could...
Internet,
so we toured a lot. We were hitting places a couple times a year, which now is kind of unheard of. We'd go to Texas we'd go to Texas and Florida in the winter and maybe again, and I mean, it was kind of crazy how often we hit some of these places.
Yeah. But it was different times. You kind of could do that. People were kind of a lot more up for just like, I'll just go down and see what bands are playing. And you could actually gain fans by doing that because the culture was still like, I'm going to go out. My buddy's band playing. I guess there's some bands from out of town. We'll go check them out. It was cheap because
cheap shows,
nobody expected
cheap
much. If you got a couple $100 and you're doing good. Get to the next town, sleep on someone's floor, and keep it rolling. And it was great. And it was a great time to develop and figure out what you're doing. And it was great for writing songs and trying them out on the road for a while before we'd go in to record, which was always a concern back then, just budget-wise. It costs a lot of money to go to a studio and work with someone who's good. So then, I don't know, somewhere in that process, we also met Albini.
Right.
And in Chicago, just at shows, he was at a show, and I remember Zach just coming backstage before we played or something. Like, he thought he was losing his mind. He was like, Steve Albini's here. I don't know why he's here. He must be seeing some friend. Steve Albini's here. Holy crap! We played, and And Steve came up and said hi, and he said he really liked what we were doing.
Yeah, shockingly, he liked what we were doing, and he was.
And so yeah, we had met Albini sort of and worked with him a little bit as we were leaving Vernon Yard.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, he became a great ally and friend and mentor, and he's efficient and quick. And we kind of had already been used to the aesthetic of, really have your stuff ready and really figure out your songs and be ready and go in and work hard and knock stuff out in sometimes just a few days and maybe have a day or two to mix.
We'd been touring like crazy, so we'd played all these songs.
Yeah, we were
on tour over and over. So we were pretty
prepared.
tight. Yeah, we were pretty tight with how we were going to play them.
We'd been listening to a lot of classic sort of history of pop, and I keep coming back to the Beach Boys. I mean, I remember this record being sort of a culmination of a time when we've been listening to a lot of that, and going listening to the Beatles and sort of just kind of educating ourselves about the possibility of sort of the original innovators in the studio. And we've been listening to like Pet Sounds and all that stuff for in the van, and then sort of, I don't know. Actually, kind of thinking about it now, it's kind of nostalgic. I think we were really lucky to be sort of given the opportunity and sort of given the time to develop through sort of the subtle process of learning what recording is about. We had several records to learn what the possibilities were, and yeah, I think by the time we came to Things We Lost in the Fire, was sort of this peak that. When they found your body. Giant X's on your eyes, and with your half of the ransom. Once we'd write a song and sort of figure out a guitar, bass, drums arrangement, the next question was always like, okay, what can we do to enhance? We had been doing that for a while. Would a keyboard sound cool on this? Oh, strings, or something like that. It was just in the band conversation, whether it was in the van listening to records and pointing out stuff and talking about this and that, and like, oh man, the string part on this song is so cool. And so it was just on our mind. And this one, actually, remember Tom? We have a friend, Tom Herbers, he's our live sound engineer, and we have recorded with him multiple times over the years. And he kind of volunteered to help us kind of enhance the sessions a little bit if we wanted to work on things. And he suggested being able to track, because we tracked some at his studio.
Tracked some with him, yeah.
And I remember the time, Albini wasn't necessarily like, I don't like that. But I remember kind of in hindsight being like, well, I know he was a little nervous about it. And I know from just hearing stories since then that he really doesn't like to do this. But we went and we tracked some with Steve at his studio. And it was, sort of incomplete, and we still had some songs. And then we went to Minneapolis at the studio that Tom Herbers had, and we tracked some stuff there, and we added some instruments, did some keyboards, added some things.
Some vocals even, I think.
Vocals, kind of some of the more fiddly, like, well, okay, let's try this. I know it might not work, but it might take me a while to like find the right keyboard setting for this thing I hear. And that's kind of just where, we're still analog recording. You're not really able to tweak and manipulate things afterwards as much. And again, by then we were kind of expanding our vision of what's possible in the studio. So we were kind of trying to see like what would happen if we had a little extra time, because we could go work with Tom cheaper, and it was closer to home and all that stuff. So when we went back to Steve, then we moved into the A room and had our friends play some strings, and then I think we mixed it. This friend of ours, Ida Pearl, and her friend Zach, we had played with them. They're in the band Ida.
And then Teresa, she's Zach's friend.
Oh, and Teresa, who, she was close to Chicago. I think she actually played on the Nirvana record. She was the cello player on the Nirvana record too. So it was someone that Steve knew as well. Yeah, well, they're good players and people we had played with already, and we had figured out what we wanted them to do, and it was just a matter of telling. It went pretty quick. And Steve's good with, he was excited because
He's a master of
catching
the natural
sound.
The natural sound. Yeah.
You know, the challenge of getting a good string session is fun for someone who loves recording. You know, he's one of the greatest engineers, you know, sound engineers ever, and is fully equipped for that. I remember actually feeling like there was a little bit of like excitement because we were bringing him weird things like, hey, what if we did this? And, you know, I think the reputation I think that was out there was that like, oh no, you know, don't try anything wacky with Steve. Everything's got to be real and it's got to be punk. And it's like, no, actually he was kind of excited about recording different things and excited about trying different things. And I think it was because it was in the spirit of, let's make a great sounding record, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet sunflowers.
For that break, there was someone doing a little click. So then that's always a trick in the studio. That's always the hardest thing, is to get something to line up rhythmically so it sounds
especially
natural.
with strings too. There's
intonation and sort of the movement where
the start and the finish of the note are just real.
When the note starts and when it ends is such
it's loose.
It can be very loose and it can be very technically challenging. I mean, Ida and Zach were really
they did a
really
job.
good.
Yeah.
So I think it actually went really smoothly. But I remember being like, okay, I'm not sure how to do this, but I think if you guys play this note and this note and this note, I think it'll work. It's literally that. You know, we knew we kind of didn't know what we were doing, but I don't know. It's just notes. You play a note and then you have them play another note and. And they'll,
one note at a time.
If it's wrong, you'll know because you'll be able to hear it. You know, at that point, you have it in your head and you kind of just dictate it with whatever instrument you're familiar with. And that's one thing you learn is that string players. There's two different. You know, they say this all the time. There's two different kinds of string players. There's people who are technical and you put a piece of music in front of them and they can play it perfectly. But then if you ask them, all right, well, we're going to do this country song. It's in A flat. Well, let's hit it. They're not going to be able to kind of hear it and know and have the confidence to kind of jump in and make it sound effortless, you know. Whereas there are some players who get it, you know. Luckily, Ida and Zach were those kinds of players. Well, the first song, Sunflower, it's sort of raw right at first because like when they found your body, it's sort of like not necessarily the first thing
It's quite an image
you think of when you're thinking of eternal love. But
yeah, it's like reading the last couple pages of the novel first.
Every time I sing it, I'm sort of picturing it from the side of someone who is either dead or is sort of reflecting on someone who has passed. And of course, it's a relationship, you know, and how someone would speak who is either a ghost or who is in love with someone who's now gone. But you're still one. It's sort of, you know, in many ways, it's maybe a reflection of a belief in eternal life or the belief that love is eternal and that if we do live forever, then are we one and living eternally with the people who we've committed our love to. And it's a way of doing a love song without it being sappy or without it being disingenuous, maybe. I don't know.
This has probably been the most requested song.
People
still,
ask for
even
this one,
this day, you know, still,
people
ask to hear this one.
Sweet sunflower.
We had been on a trajectory for a few records of kind of slowly customizing ourselves more to the studio and sort of on a very cautious level reaching out to other possibilities, whether it's other instruments or recording technique. We'd done a few records by then, and we'd worked with several different engineers and producers. That was really key to helping us along.
And so, so we had met Joel from Cranky.
Joel and Bruce
At that point, and they had basically invited us, like, hey, whenever you guys want a new situation, we're here for you. And so it was actually pretty natural and pretty welcome at that point. We didn't know if we fit on Cranky. The Cranky aesthetic was a little different, than what we'd been doing.
We thought, are you guys sure? Because we're kind of this kind of
just real minimal and not indie, really.
We're still playing pop songs and stuff.
Kind of poppy and not so experimental at this point. But
I remember having a little bit of a feeling like, wow, we're on Cranky. We really could kind of do whatever we really could stretch out. And, and of course, we'd done a few records. And like I said, we'd been learning. As you learn to record, your mind kind of explodes with like, wow, what would happen if we just did a song where the drum was just doing this thing?
We did Songs for a Dead Pilot.
Was the first thing we did.
And so we did experiment where we recorded that.
We were recording ourselves. Again, we kind of didn't know what we were doing, but we're kind of like, well, I think that's okay. I think we can just, as long as we're experimenting and trying to come up with something interesting.
And I remember, putting
microphones
in the dryer and
banging on
things. We thought, hey, this.
I bet nobody's trying. I bet nobody's thought of this. Look out, Brian Eno.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Stay.
Whitetail, I guess. Yeah, I remember kind of writing that. It's just sort of this weird circle on the guitar. It's a circle of 5 measures, which is odd. Mm-hmm. Not only literally odd, but it's just, most of the time music's in 4s and 8s and 2s and stuff. So Daniel Huffman from this band, these friends of ours, this band Comet from Texas, happened to be out hanging out, visiting us, and so we had him play some noise on that because he's kind of more of a free noise, psychedelic Texas guitar guy. So that was cool. We tracked a lot of that at Tom's and then brought it to Steve. I don't know.
I picture, that song just is slowly, anticipation.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's a little bit sonically, the texture is it's actually kind of a precursor to a lot of what we're doing now. It's removed from the drum kit. There's no backbeat to it. Mm-hmm. There's no sort of notey bass line necessarily, even though the bass is there. It's sort of just this kind of throbbing texture that's coming at you, which could probably describe a lot of what we've been doing the last few years. Mm-hmm. But the first verse in that, I remember, I always think of Zach. It's to stay up all night, waste time, waste light, closer, ever close. Because Zach is a illustrator, he's graphic novels and comics artist, and those lines to me were inspired sort of like the image of just that. He would stay up all night and work on stuff. He's a really meticulous artist, and he would take a lot of time for his stuff, and he would pour over it and edit it a lot. So it's just, to me, it's this claustrophobic late night kind of fuzzy feeling of being driven to work on this thing that you love, but it's also sort of a trudge through, and in some ways, that to me, it's sort of a reflection of the feeling of writing too, from at least my pattern for years is just, you're up late at night. It's kind of the only time of the day when, everybody's in bed and everything's kind of quiet, and you kind of sit and spend that time kind of hunched over the guitar, kind of mumbling and trying to figure out ideas. And most of the time you don't. And then the image of the white, it's just, I don't know, something that's going that way, and all you see is that it's leaving. You're never going to catch it. Some of the stuff's already built in, the fact that Mim doesn't play like a normal kick drum, hi-hat, snare kind of beats, really automatically helps things put it in a different world and makes it easier for no matter what we do. It doesn't sound like anything I've heard before. And it's mostly because Mim's different approach to drums. But then that forces us to think differently as well, so yeah, I don't know, just trying to avoid cliches. We try not to play with them or lean on them too much. I think some bands really use, the touchstones and the anchors of the past to realign and tell their story with sort of the vocabulary that's already been established and familiar. And there's an art to that. But I guess we've always just insisted that there are other ways of doing it, and that if we worked at it, we could find our own. Dinosaur Act, I remember when I wrote it thinking, wow, well, this is cool. It's kind of loud. I wasn't unfamiliar with playing loud, and I do love loud stuff. But I remember kind of writing it in this big riff, thinking, oh man, that's so rock. I don't know if Mim and
scared us.
I don't know if Mim and Zach are going to go for that. So, but we found a way to do it that was thick and heavy without completely surrendering to the thing that in my head that wanted to do.
Right.
That was a good example of us sort of being like, yeah, that's okay. We can go there, I guess, right? Let's see what happens if we go there. Let's see what happens. And
yeah.
And I think in hindsight we were probably a little cautious, and we probably could have rang it out a little harder, and maybe would have, I don't want to say rocked better, but
we could have rocked harder.
We could have rocked it.
I think we were
we were sort of
a little
cautious.
resistant
we were like,
to
time,
it. It was,
are we doing this? So it feels like this weird, like, are we doing it? Are we doing this or not? And it's I think even live, it's always really hard to do because it was just in the back of your mind. The song really wanted to go there, but then you're like, no, that's not what we're about. We were
holding it back.
That's not what we're about. How can we do this without it? Yeah,
probably
or find our own.
It was probably
it took us a while to find the right way to let loose.
Yeah.
I think we knew with that song, we're like, the things that we want to do. I feel like, I just felt like it would be a little too cliched if we let it go where we were. Yeah, it took a while for us to find, like, okay, how do we be loud without it being like, oh, there's cliche we've heard already. I thought we were about trying to avoid that, I think it actually took a couple of times playing it to you before you really bit, actually.
I wouldn't be surprised one bit.
You were the daughter, and your father flew airplanes. You and your sister could tell by the back of their heads.
Yeah, Dinosaur Act, images from childhood. And I remember the song kind of, when I wrote it, the phrase "dinosaur act" came out first. You know, it just kind of falls out of your head. And I remember thinking, like, what? Dinosaur? What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. And I remember thinking, like, well, the melody and phrasing's cool. I'll just roll with it and write some verses and stuff. And then maybe I'll come back and change the words. You know, maybe by the time I write the verses, I'll know what the chorus should be. So, but I don't know, nothing beat it out. So by the time I'd sung it a few times, like, oh, Dinosaur X. Good thing to sing as anything. I remember there was sort of a joke for a long time, people kind of misinterpreting it. The dinosaur egg song.
Yeah, right.
Dinosaur egg, dinosaur hat, dinosaur So, I don't know, there were a lot of misinterpretations. It's pretty funny.
Just like a dinosaur.
Bob was one of the engineers at the studio there, and we'd see him pop in and out, and he's a good friend. And I think Steve actually mentioned that, oh, you know, Bob plays trumpet, you know. oh, really? Okay, let's get, yeah, we had him come in and do that part, and it was cool. Very quick. Yeah, it's a weird song that we're sometimes playing and it feeling really good, but most of the time playing and just being like, what are we doing? I'm trying to find the right spot for this, and I can't, you know. Some songs are like that.
They'll never cure this thing with medicine and magazines.
Let's see, Medicine Magazines was, I remember writing, I have images in my mind of writing that as well, but it took a little while. I have sort of certain writing styles that I fall into a lot, and this is one of them, the cycle of sort of the weird twist end at the end of a cycle. It's like 3 chords in a cycle, but then a little twist at the end, and then, okay, start again. 3 chords in a cycle, or 4 chords in a cycle, and then a weird twist at the end, and then 4 chords in a cycle. Anyway, that one, all I remember is just working so hard and wringing my brain out so hard trying to write these songs. A friend of ours made a video actually just recently for that song, and I think I actually, for the first time, was actually able to really connect with the song and actually feel the emotion of it, because it's just maybe the imagery or something. Suddenly it hit me as a lot more nostalgic and resonant than I think it ever had been. I don't know. The language in it is sort of talking to a friend, you know, maybe talking to someone who's, you know, you're trying to help or console or try to give advice, or, you know, I mean, I may be talking to myself even. A lot of times that's what's going on. I'm speaking to someone, but really it's a reflection of myself, talking to myself. Or yeah, most of the songs on the record, I'm talking more to Mim, but not this one. This is speaking to a troubled friend. And there's pressure always to solve it for people or to give them answers, and it's okay. The most important thing is just engage.
Who will
Yeah, there's a really cool, on Medicine Magazine's that little electric piano break is Zach. Like, I literally can see in my mind the image of him in the big room and B playing this keyboard that Steve had wheeled out.
Yeah, I kind of remember that too.
Laserbeam was fairly new when we brought it in. Yeah, Zach and I had figured out the music on it and kind of thought, well, this is just really cool, super minimal, you know, without necessarily being slow. We were trying to still get that feeling of the minimal, you know,
it was, very minimal.
That anchor of ours and, and slow and minimal. It was nice to have a song that really was that stripped. And people request this song a lot.
Leave me in the car tonight. Rest your drunken mind. I need your grace.
The lyrics came together really fast with this song. It was one of those, you played it, I sat down,
wrote the lyrics,
and that's basically what came out.
Yeah.
I don't remember hashing over it at all.
Yeah.
You know, and basically I have no idea what the laser beam is referring to, but the rest of the song is kind of, you know, it's autobiographical for me. It has to do with, I remember when I was a kid, going to town to get my dad, who was intoxicated at the bar, which happened more than I'd like to admit. And we were sitting in the car waiting for him, and he came out holding a drink, and the cop was there, and my dad got in the car, and the cop sprayed like mace on him. And it was so crazy. And I don't remember my eyes burning or anything, but I just remember that. I mean, that was a very striking memory that I have. And that song is basically based on that experience.
Lesser things are on your mind. Don't you think I know? Will this poison scar my eyes? Mother, close the door. I need your grace. Alone.
I was quite young when that happened. But yeah, really intense. And I don't know, for some reason, it just kind of flowed out of me that day.
Yeah.
It's late. We've missed the date. Gone.
July was an interesting song to write. Yeah, it's really kind of epic. I don't write a lot of songs that have sections like that, kind of movements. It's kind of got a lot of pop melody and movement in it. A little bit more complex chord movement than we usually do.
Yeah. I mean, Mark D played on that.
Yeah.
I remember
that really
he brought a lot. Yeah.
He brought a lot of sophistication to
yeah,
it. There's
definitely.
I know we kind of built it at Steve's, and then we went to Tom's, and Mark DiLeontoni was the sampler / keyboard player for Soul Coughing, who we had toured with, and was good friends. We were friends with those guys, and he came out. We invited him out to do some keyboards on a few songs, and he did a great job, and really, it was more than just keyboard. I mean, he's a guy who understands, he's interested in sound and like how stuff hits much more so than a typical keyboard person would. So yeah, it was really great. He came and played some Mellotron and Chamberlin. Tom had a Chamberlin, which it's like a Mellotron. It's the same concept. You're triggering actual tape samples of other instruments, So yeah, all that orchestral, all that weird, like a horn sounding thing at the end and stuff. That's all Chamberlin. Mark was playing the keyboard on. There's a lot sonically. There's a lot like chords and the changes and stuff going on there that I don't know. I don't know enough about theory to understand what's going on, but there's some weird chromatic chord movement on that song that I don't understand what's going on, but it sounds okay. So we went with it. A little bit of relationship, but also like our team, like our group. Yeah, it's about sort of being, it's underdog. It's underdog cheerleading is what it is. It's to say, hey, we get left out, we get looked over, they pass us over, but that's okay. We'll hide in our little cover until they've passed. Maybe we'll have to wait even longer. And then,
I feel like
it just kind of collides.
Even to this day, I feel like when we bring that song out, which is not very often, but we'll play it for something, like we were doing our Friday shows. I feel like, oh yeah, that's what a little treat. I like playing that song. I like singing it. I think there's just some really sweet. There's some really sweet moments. And the ending, the way the ending rides out.
The tension and the release on it are actually pretty successful. It's weird. It's fun to ride out on something pretty for a couple moments,
Yeah.
Not too long, but
Heavens, no, not too long.
Yeah.
I mean, specifically, there are 2 songs on here that I sing that pertain directly to that.
Right. Childbirth.
Embrace is basically about the experience of actually physically having a child. And then In Metal is, after she's here and what you're thinking and, all the emotions that come knowing that you have this life, this new precious, fragile life, and you're in charge of keeping this child alive and teaching and, teaching her and trying to, so specifically, Yeah,
it's, in direct physical contact with sort of a newer awareness of the cycle of life, sort of this life coming in and sort of you sense the mantle of what is important to sort of shift, as you see that, okay, well, now this is the most important. And then sort of with that inevitably comes sort of death. And it's interesting. I feel like a lot of them are sort of love songs, but sort of from the voice of having gone through something together, not so much a love. It's almost like,
it's kind of the next,
the next realize, coming through to this realization.
Sure. Once you start having children, they become the focus. Obviously the marriage and the relationship is still important, but it, it takes a little, it takes, new dimension.
It's a new dimension and
maybe a new
Its
direction.
importance.
Holding my head for the last of the race, pushing my body to get that embrace.
So Embrace.
Embrace.
I'm trying to think how.
I think I came to you with some chords on the baritone. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of, I got these chords here. What do you think? And you.
Well, I actually had part of that song that I had written previously that I had been trying to find a place for. Yeah. Especially the kind of I fell down the stairs. I'd had that.
Oh, right.
Remember? And
it was just a matter of getting.
It was matter of figuring out a verse and. Yeah, and so
you told me you were like, okay, the chorus needs to kind of go like this, this, and I remember like, okay, is it this chord? And you're like, no, it's somewhere going.
Right,
okay,
yeah.
Well,
so when a lot of times I'll have a melody in my head, and it's like a harmony to something. So for him to find the note,
to figure out like what chord or
what am I hearing in my head?
Where's the chord movement that you're hearing with this?
Yeah, and so that was that one. I'd had that kind of that bridgy part for a while, and then I just. Took me a little while. I think I labored over that one a little bit. And that one actually is, about childbirth. So kind of preparing for this, I looked at the songs again, just kind of, refresh my memory. And I read a review. I read a review about this.
In Pitchfork.
And it talked about my...
good review.
It talked about my ridiculous lyrics. I think back in the day, I didn't really read...
Oh, no.
I didn't really read reviews, and I'm like...
I never saw that either.
I never saw that, but anyway, now I could kind of chuckle at it. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, all right, you push a child out of your vagina, and let's see if you want to die.
Yeah. I'm sure all of those 20-some-year-old
the guys,
dudes who are working at Pitchfork now have probably 4 children. Would be the first ones to admit that they would rather not give you crap about pushing a child out your vagina.
Anyway, I thought it, but now, so I kind of laugh at it now. But anyway, so that's one of those, songs that are definitely come about or impacted by having a child.
I fell down the stairs. I wished I were dead. You ran toward the light. He handed me your head. It won't.
That middle section, that was kind of the first time I kind of
really
opened up a little bit.
A little bit of full voice.
Yeah.
You can hear it. It's fresh. It's fresh
For
and
me,
raw
because
territory.
I was pretty subdued in the past, but yeah.
It's fine. It sounds good.
You will
let's see. Horn. Yeah, I remember kind of writing this again, this is this trying really hard to write good songs and sort of really being influenced by traditional pop and sort of trying to figure out like, okay, well, what is with chords that sort of move and, a simple melody over it, this idea of especially stuff that sort of would descend through each of the notes of the scale instead of just using the same 2 or 3 chords that 90% of music bases around. I was infatuated with sort of, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to do a descending chord, I mean, Elliott Smith and some of our, contemporaries were just masters with this stuff. So I was sort of fascinated with like, how do they do that? So that song kind of has this chromatic descending kind of chord thing and then this melody.
Yeah,
this
it was
melody,
kind of the first time that I kind of
for,
come up with a counter.
Yeah.
A counter melody too.
Yeah. That was key.
Yeah.
You kind of came in with this counter melody that instead of just being harmony with me. Yeah. That was pretty key.
That one is definitely
the limits of the flesh.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like
I really like that song. I think that's really great. That little bridge there, the little bridge in the middle is, you fill your house with bells, but who can live like that? Mm-hmm. You want to speak like angels, but you can't. Yeah, I think it's one of my favorite lines that I came up with.
I kind of was worried that maybe I was being a little too preachy,
right,
on that song. But
yeah,
in the end, I was like, well, I'm in the same boat.
I'm saying,
yeah.
Compared to what I'm saying, what is the horror? You like? I'm definitely more accusatory. I could be taken as more accusatory.
But I'm saying, well, I guess you'll get what you get, reap what you sow.
Look out, Mim and Alan are coming to tell you how bad you are.
No.
As we were starting to have children, our daughter was pretty fresh at this point, but sort of the concept of there being this other person who is that close to you and someone who you're that concerned about, like, well, what kind of life are they going to have? And you are hopeful and fearful for their life more so than you ever were, even for your own, and that can be terrifying. And so you start imagining, like, what is life going to be like for this person? What is their experience going to be? What is the ultimate trauma they're going to have to deal with, and how will reality look around in their space, as they become a more valid life form than you are, because they're now new and now you definitely sense, again, I think they use the word passing of the mantle. It's sort of a weird, subtle thing that happens when you recognize that reality. I don't know. So yeah, I'm speaking maybe to a hypothetical future, my daughter or someone that close, I guess, so to speak. You could have had pushing so hard, trying to figure out so the possibilities of chord movement and stuff, again, influenced by influenced by contemporaries, people that we had toured with who were really making some really sophisticated stuff. Ida, we'd been touring a lot with Ida, and they're just great songwriters, just so good with putting sophistication into seemingly simple music. And so I don't know, I was really pushing myself. That one, it's a very tactile guitar. I'm picking and doing double stops and doing fancy stuff that sort of looks like someone who knows how to play the guitar. I always actually look at that one as like sort of probably the most sophisticated guitar piece that I've ever recorded, just because of the technique that's involved with it. And honestly, it's not typical of what I write, and it's not typical of how I play at all either. Yeah, Like a Forest, again, kind of just exploring pop and trying to figure out kind of chord movement. And, we're sort of trying to find ways to do it without it being sort of rock and roll backbeat,
Heaven, yeah, we just really...
And,
yeah, do-do-do, just a real...
Yeah, I don't know, it's funny. Orchestral, but still on a real minimal level.
Yeah, and that...
Strings on that. Yeah, it just took a while. We're like, okay, well, I'll try this, try that. Okay, does this work? Oh, no, it doesn't work when we change this. Okay, I'll try to move it to this thing. Okay. Yeah, that's how we did the strings.
So I like that. I got the 5 or 6 types of songs that we have. Maybe 7. I don't know. Yeah. That's
one.
That's one of the...
Will the Night.
Yeah, Will the Night,
kind of like very,
strings.
Really kind of building and ecstatic. Some of it I call, there's a Roy Orbison influence. I've listened to a lot of that and really recognizing his influence on a certain, there's a couple iconic pop structures that Roy Orbison really, really defined. I don't know if he was necessarily the pioneer of it, but anyway, he taught me those kinds of things. Those are sort of certain song forms that I like. And definitely have used many times. So yeah, it's building, and and we're out.
Yeah.
I think of my friend, a friend named John, went to college with, who blew up like an M80 or something in his hand and kind of lost half of a couple fingers. So that's sort of the reference to that. So just in time to go up in my hand. Yeah, again, trying to convince someone you love to either keep going or see the truth or something. I don't know. Probably a precursor more to what was coming than anything.
Maybe.
I don't know. Let's say the next few years, probably. I started losing my mind a little bit, and the universe started collapsing for me, at least a little bit. But this was definitely a bright fire on the way there. Well, our song, let's see, Closer, it's the second to the last song on the record. You can definitely kind of look at that and see that it's sort of an intimacy song. It's a love song. It's It's, look what we've been through. Is that not the substance of who we are together? Look what we survived. Look what we helped each other through, look what we made. I mean, that's the substance of sort of, that's the substance of a relationship. So to me, that's, hold me, it's like, look at all these things you've been through. If you've lost everything together, I mean, when I see, the ships lay sleeping beneath, overhead, spinning past, it's a little bit of the imagery of two ships passing in the night, except one is on the bottom of the sea and one is aimlessly drifting, across the surface. But is there still not intimacy there? I mean, even the image of the lack of intimacy is almost intimate. I think, again, I keep coming back to like, those are the things that's the substance of love. And that's the substance of eternal life,
Things we lost in the fire, how'd we ever get by? Words will never take back. Hold me closer than that.
The title comes from Closer. It's things we lost in fire. And to me, it's a powerful image. It's pretty loaded and personal. I think just about anyone hears that phrase and is both taken back in a little bit of terror and also, immediate recalling of your memory and your foundation and what's around you and what you count on as objects to find your bearing in life and what, I guess sort of the next question is like, well, do those things matter? Of course they do, but imagine losing them together.
Filling holes with tiny sounds.
I remember with that song that I did kind of struggle with the lyrics for that one.
We're talking about In Metal?
In Metal,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, sorry. Yes, we were still talking about the noise thing from before.
Oh yeah, well,
Okay.
I'm getting to
For In Metal.
I'm getting to the nitty gritty of the song.
All right,
How much time can you spend on that noise thing?
exactly.
It's not even listed on the record. Okay, In Metal. Yeah, that was another.
Yeah, I came with a guitar thing and you kind of wrote this thing real quick.
Some
And
weird lyrics for it, but
yeah,
that's another one that people kind of
Misinterpret.
request. No, they don't. I don't
Oh,
think they
they could-
misinterpret.
they
That
request
one's
it.
kind of obvious a little
Yeah.
bit, but.
Partly hate to see you grow, and just like your baby shoes, wish I could keep your little body in
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah,
because
it
it's
is kind of a grotesque.
it's grotesque
reference,
and terrifying and
But I know when
also,
when you have your kids and they're just so sweet and they're just you just want to wrap them up and keep them where they're at,
yeah.
and that's kind of
Because-
just
Yeah.
referring to that, how we just loved her so much and we just wanted to keep her so sweet and precious.
Mm-hmm.
Because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We knew that it was a special.
I wish you could keep you in this.
A very special moment.
I know we can't, but it would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. It's got a good payoff.
It does got, it's got a little,
It's got the kind of acoustic indie rock funk going.
Mm-hmm. Baby Hollis, first appearance on the record.
I think you had to, I remember you actually having to like squeeze her and shake her to get her to squeal in the right spot.
Well, she would squeal, but not when we wanted her.
Yeah,
And we might have actually done that at Tom's.
We did that at Tom. I think you were doing some backup vocals and she was in the room.
Yeah.
And you were trying to do a vocal and she squeaked and we were like, okay, well, why don't you bring her over close to the mic?
We'll just keep it in
and
there.
We'll catch a couple. And
yeah.
Well, this was a really great record for us. We were working with people that we loved. Mm-hmm. We had just gotten a good deal. Our label in England, kind of our situation in England finally was healthy and good. And we had a good label there. And the Christmas record had kind of gotten a lot of people's interest up in us. So when this record came out, it was really fun to like really deliver and actually have something that I felt like we achieved what we were hoping to. It was a culmination of many hours in the van listening to music and learning about how records were made and you hear music and you go, wow,
it was
a
first for me, first with some of the songs like Dinosaur Act, and we were venturing out a little bit and we were breaking out of the rules that we'd the parameters that we'd set for ourselves a little bit. We decided that, well, maybe we don't have to be so strict to these, ideals that we've had in the past. And so I think this was...
It's kind of an arrival of...
Yeah.
Like, oh.
An arrival and a departure to something else.
Visit lifeoftherecord.com for more information about Low. You'll also find a link to stream or purchase Things We Lost in the Fire. Thanks for listening.